Evening and welcome everybody to the Canadian Football Fanatics Weekly Show. And you guys are tuning in tonight on the the YouTube alone. Unfortunately, we couldn't go live for the entire show on
Again,
Instagram due to me, unfortunately not being home for the entire show tonight. That being said, we are still hopefully coming in alive and clear on our YouTube channel. But that is most important, Blake, because we want to push people over to the YouTube channel. Please like, comment. What else they got to do? Smash the subscribe button, right, Blake?
ah,
As always. But buddy, thanks for joining me as always, and kind of steering the ship tonight. But how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How was your week? I know you and I did end up doing a bit of a post game after the Lions game. As per usual, the week went off and the sting sort of wore off a bit, and I'm ready to get back to BC Place on Friday night. But we still got a couple of shows to get through before we can do that.
We do. The week wasn't bad. Would have been better with a Bills victory. It was definitely a double whammy this week for football for my fandom. I was 1-1 in fantasy, so it wasn't too bad. But wasn't a good week, man. Had the Monday off. Was able to enjoy a nice, relaxing day off. Just chilled at the house. Wasn't the best weather. It was kind of a doomy, gloomy kind of day. But that being said, I can't complain when I'm getting paid to sit on the couch and kind of edit some stuff around, get prepared for the show here tonight, get prepared for the Canada West weekly show, which I'm going to record after we get off here tonight. So I guess without further ado, let's get into the 3-minute drill, which Blake and I will tag team once again. Might start to see this on a more regular occasion going into maybe even next year. Blake's starting to run things a little bit more. So, Blake, let's get into the 3-minute drill, buddy. And that started off with Winnipeg in a big, dominating fashion of beating the Edmonton Elks by a hitting the big old 50 burger 55-27. And it was the return of Zach Collaros returning to form, if you will. I believe over 400 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, took care of the football, 0 interceptions, was able to have his first good game. It's crazy to think his first good game 18 weeks into the season. I guess 17 weeks in, being as that it was last week, and him and that offense really impressed. Kenny Lawler with 2 touchdowns, making some incredible catches. Head coach's son saying that's just disrespectful on I believe his second touchdown there in the end zone. And Nick Dembski, I try to tell you guys, don't write him off. He's fumbling the ball early on in the season. He is still Nick Dembski, still catching touchdowns, still the veteran that he is. And I'm interested to see if this kind of group of weapons, still a pretty good group of weapons, but without, the big gun and Dalton Schoen, can they be enough come playoff time to get it done versus maybe, Saskatchewan, BC, and or Edmonton, and then obviously the big factor, whoever's going to come out of the East right now. So Winnipeg with another convincing win in the Western Division to get to 9-6. Edmonton wasn't a terrible game from McLeod Thompson stat wise. I know he threw I believe 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but some late kind of stuff where Winnipeg was kind of, I feel like, protecting a lead, playing a little bit more prevent defense than anything, and the Elks unfortunately just aren't able to build enough momentum to, I feel like, creep forward here. I know that they're going to be scoreboard watching a little bit too, with some teams having some implications on maybe knocking them out here this week. So next game was unfortunately for us, Blake, a very, very disappointing one. As you mentioned, we had to hash out a post-game show after that. Wanted to only go for about 30, 30 or so minutes. We ended up going for an hour. Like I said, Friday night, usually those things are, a little bit therapeutic after we get off talking. You kind of are able to, exhale a little bit and be like, okay, like, it's one loss. We'll be able to get over it. That one, as you mentioned, this one stings. It gets over. You get over it throughout the week, but I think it definitely still stings a little bit in terms of me looking forward here tonight, talking about a little bit about it even more. But our BC Lions got up to a 16-0 lead in the first half. We're unable to capitalize on really a pretty good first half overall.
Mhm.
Settling for a few field goals that I know, a friend of ours, Bobby DeBow, has been very boisterous on. Some of them. One of them I agreed on. I believe and it's hard to say, with our kind of 2020 now hindsight, right? With us being able to look afterwards when Rick Campbell's making split-second decisions. You and I both know that I'm no defender of Rick Campbell, but I kind of agreed to kick the field goal. I believe it was the 3rd and 9 one. That was the first, I believe, field goal opportunity for the BC Lions Friday, and then there was a 3rd and I think 3 or 4 that they also kicked a field goal on that I think was inside Hamilton 10-yard line, if I'm not mistaken. That I kind of agree with Bobby. I think that I think why not go for it in that type of situation? Worst case, you pin them deep and hope that you. I believe that one was later in the first half as well, but that ends up costing the BC Lions because they're not able to pull away. They keep Hamilton in the game, and Hamilton comes storming back in the fourth quarter to win 32-29 in overtime. Again, with the some decision making there late in the game, Coach Campbell ends up deciding to kick a field goal with I want to say maybe about 10 or so seconds left in the game on a 4th and 1 situation. And there's some people calling for him to maybe go for it, take a shot to the end zone after that, and try to go for the win. Ultimately, they kick the field goal, play for the tie, get into overtime, and that is all she wrote. Hamilton was able to get a win on the road across the country, and good for Hamilton. So I'll pass it back to you, Blake, and you can finish off last week's 3-minute drill.
Yeah, no. So on Saturday we had the traditional Saturday doubleheader again, starting with the CFL on CTV from Regina, and I missed most of the. It ended up being more than I wanted, but it ended up being most of the first three quarters. When I tuned in, it was 15-3 Riders on the strength of 5 Brett Lothar field goals. The Red Blacks would get a couple of field goals themselves to make it 15-9. And then it was Thomas Bertrand Houdon, a very unlikely source for the Riders, as of course AJ Ouellette still injured. I've heard rumors he may be back for next week's game against the BC Lions. We'll have to wait and see. Rock Armstead was also knocked out of that game with a forearm injury. It doesn't look likely that he will play on Saturday, this upcoming Saturday against the Elks. But Bertrand Houdon with a beautiful 25-yard run as he absolutely demolished. I believe it was Money Hunter on the cutback. That made it 23-9, and that was kind of the difference in the football game as the two teams would trade points after that. I believe the final score turned out to be 31-15 in favor of the Riders.
29-16.
29-16. So I was close, but 29-16 in favor of the Riders, moving them into second place in or into the Western Division, I should say. And that win also, before they even kicked off, clinched the Eastern Division for the Montreal Alouettes. So they knew going into their game that they were going to be in first at year's end. They will host the Eastern Final on November 9th from Percival Molson Stadium. And they still had a football game to play, though, a back and forth game. The kickers really shone through as Lauder in that Saskatchewan game was 7 for 7. I believe Jose Maltos for the Alouettes kicked 4 or 5 field goals. And then it was Liam Haralahu from the Argos who kicked a franchise record 8 field goals. And the Argos were able to get a huge win as they moved just 1 point back of the Red Blacks for that second place in the Eastern Division. The final score in that one was 37-31 in favor of the Argos. And that concluded Week 17's action.
Yeah, it was an interesting week, to say the least, Blake, because obviously Toronto getting a win over Montreal. As I kind of put in the title there, Montreal, Winnipeg, and everybody else. Even with the loss, I feel like, I still have pretty high beliefs in a Montreal team. I think, you know, I don't think they'd ever admit it, but I feel like, they've been kind of sleepwalking a little bit, running away with the East, if you will. Haven't really had much to really get up for. I believe they clinched the East already, if I'm not mistaken.
They have.
So they do, another loss in the loss category isn't great, but come November they win a Grey Cup. I really feel like they're not going to give too many cares on that one. I still believe in Montreal, and I think like I mentioned, Montreal, Winnipeg, and everybody else right now to kind of try to take them down and put their name in the hat. So let's bring in the boys. Let's start with Coach. Coach, thanks for joining us as always. How you doing?
I'm
You got a
happy.
stogie.
I'm happy.
Riders won.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We got a win, but It wasn't the prettiest win. I will say that right now with all those damn field goals. I was so tired of looking at Brett Lothar kicking him, even though he was automatic 7 for 7. I felt like when we get into these red zone situations, we got to score. We got to punch it in, man. We got to do more than just that. You know what I'm saying? But a win's a win. We're 0-0 again this week, and we back to work.
They don't ask how, they just ask how many. Led by your defense as well. You know, the 7 field goals, 3 turnovers, I believe 3 interceptions for that defense. So let's bring in our main man over at 13th Man Sports. Shane is always joining us on a Wednesday night. Shane, thanks for joining us, buddy. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We're
Good.
doing
And
good.
of course, we can't hear Shane, but I know he said I'm good. How are you? But Shane, we can't hear you. I can see coaches laugh.
Always technical difficulties with Shane.
Okay.
Death taxes.
Death, taxes, and Shane not having good
I don't know
audio.
what's going on. It says my
There we
audio is
go.
working.
There we
There
go.
we go.
Shane,
There we go.
Okay, I don't know. My end's saying it's fine, so maybe
sorry,
it's
buddy.
you guys' fault. Maybe it's that Western connection. I don't know what to tell you. Over in the
Western
West as it is
Hemisphere.
in the East.
But how you doing, Shane? Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Yeah, I'm good. Disappointing result last weekend, but I mean, I kind of expected it with the injuries, and I mean, I hope you guys are enjoying the Trevor Harris experience out in Saskatchewan. A lot of yards, not a lot of scoring, relying on your kicker to put up points. So like, but hey, we got to buy. Hopefully, it's healthy time. Win two of the next 3 games to end the year. Go to the playoffs. Anything can happen at that point.
All right, so let's get into it, boys. News and notes. We have 3 of our fan bases represented right here, but 3 teams have a chance to clinch this week, with it being our BC Lions, Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Ottawa Redblacks. I guess maybe just kind of go around the table here. We'll start with Coach and just maybe kind of maybe not like gauge your confidence, but talk about how you feel about kind of going forward here with the matchup versus Edmonton and being able to maybe stack wins here. And with BC kind of floundering here, you have a real opportunity to take hold of second place and really not look back.
Yeah, I think right now where my gauge is feeling okay. I'm not worried about the defense. I know we're going to show up as long as we add a little more pressure. I think if we just rely on that 4-man pressure or 3-man pressure, we're going to struggle. We got to get pressure on the quarterback at all by any means necessary. Offensively, I'm teetering back and forth. If we get AJ back and we get is Armstead out?
I don't think he's officially been ruled out, but he hasn't practiced yet this week.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sure he's done for the year with a shoulder injury, from what I've heard.
Okay.
Again, don't quote me. We'll find out this week, but I'm pretty sure he's done for the year with a shoulder injury.
And it's the same thing with Sean Bain Jr.
I believe so. Yeah, they're both.
Oh.
I think they're both. I think there's expectations that they're going to end up on the 6th game, but I don't know. So I'm not for sure, but that's what I've heard. So we'll see when they release the depth chart.
I mean, we got some issues on offense that we need to kind of tighten up. And this game against Edmonton is not going to be a sloucher of a game. Edmonton's going to come swinging. They're going to do their thing. That defense is still nasty. I think we do need to establish. This is probably, I think, complete wise, probably one of the toughest defenses we're going to play because they're stacked on the front line, they're stacked at the linebacker position, and they're stacked in the secondary. They do have their holes in their defense in that secondary we can attack, but as far as that, I think we'll be okay. We just got to control the clock, control the ball, and we got to run the ball. I'm gonna keep saying it till the playoffs. Run the ball, man. We can't get too cute with the passing. We do have saw a lot of guys offensively, receiver wise, that they stepped up when we needed them to. But can you do that consistently game by game the rest of the season? That's all I care about.
Yep. So the Riders can clinch, Coach, with obviously a win over the Elks, a BC loss, and a Hamilton loss as well. So I think pretty reasonable outcomes. Hopefully for our sake, Blake, the BC doesn't lose, but Winnipeg Hamilton, I believe, is the other matchup.
Yep.
Feel pretty good about Winnipeg taking out Hamilton on that one. So, you handle your business. Hamilton drops one, and then, on any given Friday night, I guess, is what probably you're going to say this week. And never know if Calgary can take out BC as well. So let's stay in the West before we go out east and talk about Shane's Ottawa Red Blacks. And I'll pass it over to Blake. Blake, this week up on the schedule, the Calgary Stampeders. Obviously last in the Western Division right now, but a team that's, maybe a little bit early in the season. They played, would hang with teams, and then find ways to lose it at the end. What's your confidence going forward with the BC Lions after last week? And then how confident are you that they can get a win here Friday night?
Which question do you want me to answer first?
I'll let you pick.
My confidence that they can get a win on Friday night is pretty high because they're playing the Calgary Stampeders. But my confidence for the rest of the season is nowhere near what it's been in the last few weeks. I feel like we talked about it last week. I kind of hummed and hawed on my pick. I eventually did end up going with the Lions. And it's like, I feel like if it was anyone other than the Calgary Stampeders, I don't trust the BC Lions right now. We saw what happened last week. They were really dominating Bo Levi and almost the entire Hamilton team for that first half and almost the first full 3 quarters, except for that one touchdown drive in the third quarter. And then they just fell apart at the end of the game again. And again, Coach Campbell, Shane's warned us all year. I see him looking on. But Coach Campbell, again, is afraid to take chances. Like, I get why you did it because it's 3rd and 1 at the end of the game. And if you get stopped, you lose anyways. But it turned out not to matter because you kicked the field goal and you still lost. So if you go for it and lose, the result doesn't change. The only thing that changes is that you lost in regulation instead of losing in overtime. Like you're third and a yard and a half. You have the second leading rusher in the CFL. There was what, 14, 15 seconds? That's plenty of time to get at least 2 plays. If Stanback gets the first down and doesn't score, you can rush up to the line, try and get one more play. And if that doesn't work, then you kick the field goal and go into overtime. But instead, the Lions kick the field goal, they go into overtime. And again, that offense sputters. They can't get it done. And the defense, as controversial as it may be, and I will say personally to Coach and Shane, I don't think that was controversial at all. I think it was clear pass interference on Ronald Kent. I did misspeak on the post-game show saying it was Dwayne Ford. It was not. As the color man for that game, it was Glenn Suter. He's probably one of the only people that doesn't think it was pass interference. And it's really frustrating to see what was a good start for the Lions. I'm sure Shane almost feels almost exactly the same way. The only difference is the Red Blacks had a lot more of a leadway than the Lions did. But it's really frustrating to see such a good start. The Lions were 5-1, and it seems like this season is going to the toilet faster than we can save it right now.
Yeah, well, really, really well said, honestly, and kind of saves me from having to ramble on too much. But I've said it a few times here, and I think that the biggest concern for me would be is just the lack of complementary football all year long. And at some point, it's hard to look over it, and at some point, that's just kind of your DNA and who you are as a team. So I think that's probably moving forward. Do I have confidence in the Lions can get a win on Friday? I think yes, I agree with you. And then some of the outcomes that they need are very reasonable as well. I think it's Hamilton loss and a Elks loss as well, which are very reasonable outcomes. And I'm sure it'll feel like a good thing to clinch a playoff spot. But going forward against Winnipeg, even against Saskatchewan right now, if you don't play complementary football, you're probably going to lose that game 9 times out of 10. So
Yep.
it's tough in pro football to kind of flip the switch and find it here late in the season. That being said, they do have a little bit of a runway here with a late bye week to put together 3 games here. We'll see what happens with Montreal in week I believe it's 21, is it? If I'm not mistaken, 20. And what they're dressing and what the Lions are dressing at that point as well. But they got to figure out their shit pretty fast here. And if not, like I said I think a few weeks ago, I don't know if it was on a preview or a post game show or the weekly show, but West semifinals really aren't the standard anymore, right? Winning the West semifinal is not kind of what we want at this point. So That's not even guaranteed at this point. We could be going to Regina, as I believe Jay kind of mentioned on Twitter this afternoon, and I want to talk about that. But let's go to Ottawa to have Shane not waiting too much longer. But Ottawa also has a chance on the bye week to clinch a playoff spot. So that is a good feeling, I would imagine, sitting on the couch watching football this week. Hopefully, as a fan, Shane can say the Ottawa Red Blacks have clinched the playoffs. Shane, how you feeling?
I mean, I'm disappointed that they'll clinch by like not playing when they've had two chances to clinch with a win. But I mean, hey, a clinch is a clinch at the end of the day, right? Like getting into the playoffs, that's all that matters. Doesn't matter how. But I don't think currently what I've seen with the injuries and whatnot, even if they do get into the playoffs, I don't think they're more than the East semis. Like I don't see them going on a run. And like this isn't to knock any of the guys in the room, but I don't think people understand the type of players and leaders that Santos Knox and Pickett are, and not having Bryce Carter, potentially Maldine. Like he got hurt last game. We don't really know what his status is because of the bye week. We won't know until next week when they're back practicing. I don't know. Just we got Pimpleton back. We started to see some guys like Pelios came back. It's just the defense played really well against Saskatchewan. They gave the offense everything they could. Missouri had some ill-advised throws that led to some interceptions, killed some drives. But playoff football is a completely different beast. We all know that. Defense are going to have very little room for error in playoff football. And I just, when you're missing your two top linebackers and arguably two of the best linebackers and defensive players in the league, that's a tough goal. And I think if Carter's not back and if Maldine is out long term, they're going to go in. They're going to get the experience. They're going to mature. But I'd be shocked if Ottawa wins a playoff game this year, even if they're hosting.
Interesting. So, I guess to kind of go around here back and forth, we can go through some news and notes to end this portion. But Cole Speaker got an extension. Not too many things to talk about, to be honest, this week. Cole Speaker got an extension, I think, through 2026. A nice role piece through for Montreal, but I don't think he's overall a needle mover. They have their kind of two big guns, even three big guns with Kaylon Julian Grant as well, but. Awesome Mac locked in. I believe Philpott's as well. And I feel like this kind of, just puts together Cody Fajardo's weaponry for the next few years here while they have, this core group together and intact. Also, Montreal was making some news by trading Canadian running back Jeshrin Antwi to out west to the BC Lions. Trading back, I believe the Lions sent a third-round pick from 2025. Blake, any other news and notes? We'll just kind of go around table to kind of end things here tonight. Any other news and notes that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, there was just one other news and note, more specifically for Shane and Coach. What did you guys think of the play on Pimpleton? I believe, Coach, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Was it DeMonte Williams that delivered the hit? Yeah,
Yeah.
so DeMonte Williams did have a hearing today, which tells me that he will be suspended for some amount of time. The results of the hearing have not come out yet. I guess all started off, and I'll say that I was not watching the game, as I quite often do when I'm working. I was tuning into the game on Sirius XM, and Sirius always plays the um, home radio broadcast, I should say, with Dave Thomas and Coach. Gosh, correct me. Who's the color guy out in Regina?
Oh, they got Darren DuPont.
Right, right. So it's Dave Thomas and Darren DuPont, and even they said it was a bit of an unnecessary hit. I have seen clips of the hit since. I think this is a tough one because I think it was an unnecessary hit, but I don't know how to word this. I don't think it was dirty per se. Like unnecessary, absolutely. But was he trying to really tombstone him like he did? No, I don't think so. And I think that for the most part, we've talked about this 3 or 4 times on weekly shows this year. For the most part, the Riders get a bit of an unfair rap as being a dirty team. However, I will say that an interesting stat that I did see today from, I believe it was Jamie Nye, who covers the Riders lead the league in unnecessary roughness penalties, just generalized. They also lead unnecessary roughness, roughing the passer. And I will pass it first to Coach Phil to hear your thoughts on this.
I finally rewatched the play a couple times today on my lunch break, and it's a 50-50 call. He didn't have to. It was a football play. Shit like that happens. But it was the comment that he made. He said, "Hey, I talked to Khalil. I apologized, and he gave him a Bible scripture and let him know, hey, it's all good. Shit happens out there. People got to stop making it like, oh, he tried to tombstone him. He tried to DDT him. The Riders are a dirty team, man. If you know anything about football, man, there's a lot of hits that hell we don't hear about, but it happens. I don't see anybody saying anything about the hit Khalil took against Marcus Sales. The shit happens out there. Now, as far as leverage goes, he could have kept his leverage and got his feet under him and not fallen to the damn near to the ground. But it's a football play, and it sucks that he does. You got to go through the process, the hearing. If he's going to get suspended, it is what it is, and people got to stop making things more than what it is. It's football. That's it.
Shane, I can tell you you disagree with Coach's take, so what are your thoughts on it?
I don't agree that it's a football play. I mean, I don't think he intentionally went out there to tombstone him, and like, I don't think he's a dirty player. And anyone who says he's a dirty player is just you're emotional. You're dealing with the name more than you are the actual incident. But I don't think picking a guy up and slamming him down is a football play.
Oh, there goes shit. I wonder if we got a call. Did you get a call?
Ah,
Did you get a
Are
call?
you there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
weird. That was
okay.
Keep
weird.
going.
Like I don't know. I don't agree that it's a football play. That being said, it's people do some dumb things. They make dumb decisions. Almost every player in their career has a questionable hit. In
Thank you.
football, hockey, like it happens. It's part of the game. Emotions run high. You're not thinking sometimes. So I don't agree with people saying that like the Rough Riders are a dirty team or that he's a dirty player. One time doesn't make him a dirty player. If he
No,
does this again or does something similar, that's a different conversation.
I
I'm
mean,
glad Pimpleton was able to get up and walk off, and like he didn't seem to be seriously injured from it. I don't agree that it wasn't. I don't agree with it being a football play. I think lifting him up, if you lift a player up for a tackle, you are putting yourself and the player at risk, even if that's your intent or not. I think when a player gets off their feet, there is risk for serious injury. But I mean, if he gets suspended for a game, I can understand why. If he only gets fined, I'm fine with that. But I think people are blowing it out of proportion because he was a Rough Rider and not because because of the play itself.
can
Cole,
I add to that?
yeah, go ahead, Coach.
No, I kind of forgot about the fact that he did lift him because I'm thinking this was like around noon when I watched it, so maybe I do need to watch it back again now. I forgot that he did lift him. Now, from what I remember, I thought he just kind of boom DDT kind of style. But it'd be one thing if he like Brock Lesnar suplex city bitch all over the place and did that. Now that's out of pocket. But if it's his first time really getting in trouble, they're gonna make an example out of him. They're gonna give him a 1 game suspension. If they give anything more than 1 game suspension, that's just off of him being a rider. But yeah, I kind of got to agree with you on that, Shane. It's a 50-50 thing, but when the minute he did lift him, all right, that ain't football no more, bro. You're doing too much. So
Yeah, and I mean Pimpleton also kind of wiggled a little bit because again, you get off your feet. Any normal reaction is to kind of try to get your feet back down onto the ground.
yeah,
But like again, I don't think the guy's dirty. I don't think he intentionally tried to pile drive Pimpleton through the turf. I think also part of it's like the timing of the hit. Right, it was at the end of the game. It was basically like the last offensive play. Right, there was like, and again, you could tell that the frustration on the offensive side of the ball for Ottawa was at a high, and that just kind of was the lid on the kettle, and it ended a pretty piss poor game for Ottawa.
Yep.
now
Well,
as far as the unnecessary roughness thing goes, yeah, you Coach May's got to ring that in a little bit. That's going to cost us down the stretch. I'm gonna add that little if because once you get to the playoffs, everything is looked at under a microscope.
Magnified.
Yeah, like magnified. Like you see everything and everything counts. Every play, every second is meticulous.
Yeah,
You gotta be smart about what you do. So all that playing with emotion, you gotta control that shit and you gotta just take care of your business.
yep.
Cole,
very.
I know you
Well,
got to run. So, what are your thoughts on it, very quickly? And
I will.
maybe just send us what our record was in the private chat before you leave
I
for
was gonna say
last
I will
week's game.
bow. I will bow out of
Where are you
my
going?
opinion. I have to go to Raiders practice.
I didn't realize we were playing. Are you covering the team still? Are you doing all
Yeah,
that?
I have to get some interviews.
Working man.
Gotta schedule your time better, man. This
I
is like a
tried.
this is a weekly thing.
Dude, I trust me. I tried to tell him it's the last week of the regular season. And it's my anniversary tomorrow, so I can't do it tomorrow,
Oh
and
man.
I can't do and I can't do it after because I'm recording Canada West Weekly show after at 7:30. Um, that being said, I can't give my opinion on the hit. I did not see it, so I'm not going to do that. I will agree with Coach and Shanks. They agree with each other. That being said, to jump
For
ahead,
once.
I got
Hey, we agreed last week on who would win.
I got Winnipeg, BC, Saskatchewan. Our records, Coach. Golf clap for Coach. He was number one last week with a 3-1 record.
Still couldn't go
The
perfect.
the rest of us were
Fuck you, Blake.
2-2. So I am 37, 28, and 2. Like I said, 2-2. Shane is 30, 29, and 2. He was 2-2 as well. Blake is 38, 27, and 2. He was 2-2 as well. Coach is now 12,
Hey,
25, and 2
Oh, you
after a
finally
three
hit
and
double
one.
digit wins. Good job,
that's
coach.
what
Coach
I'm
hit double
saying.
digits. So, like I said, I have Winnipeg, BC, Saskatchewan. I'll just rewatch this and get your guys' picks later. That being said, boys, have a good rest of the show. I'm gonna try to pop back in probably like at 7 maybe and see if Blake we can do the BCFC picks from the field. But I'll let
Yeah,
you know how
sounds good.
that situation is going.
Sounds
All right,
good.
Cole.
So, we'll see Cole later, and I guess that just leaves the three of
Later,
us.
boys.
See ya.
Later, Cole.
So we will go now to our Week 18 CFL picks. This is the second of 2 weeks, or second of the 2 weeks in the last month that have had only three CFL games. As back in Week 15, it was the Western Division, save for BC and I believe Calgary that had the buys. This time it's the Eastern Division, the only team with the bye without the bye, I should say, is Hamilton. So on Friday night, the red hot winners of now 7 in a row, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, have a chance to potentially win the Western Division this
Woo!
week.
Mm.
However, they would
Who would have
need
thought?
a win and a Saskatchewan loss, and a loss for Hamilton would almost, I believe the Lions would or one more thing would have to happen for them to be officially eliminated. But if they lose, they will be about 99% eliminated from the playoff race. Coach Phil, we'll start with you. Who you got and why?
Okay, explain to me one more time. How does Hamilton have to get knocked out?
So Scamilton still has a chance in the East
Fuck.
Correct.
based off of their record against Toronto. So
Correct. So they would be, if they lose this game, they will be two back of Toronto. meaning they would have to win their final 2 games, and Toronto would have to lose both for them to get into third place in the East.
So they have to beat Winnipeg. They have to, in order to avoid getting eliminated, they have to beat Winnipeg and win their next 2. Basically, got to win and win out.
Yeah, they have to
Basically,
beat.
yeah.
They basically have to beat Hamilton. Like they'd have to beat Winnipeg this week. They're on a bye next week. Then they play Calgary, and then they end the season against Ottawa. They would have to win out, or they would have to win, I think, 2 of those 3 games, with Toronto losing their 3 remaining games.
Or BC would have to lose out.
Or BC if they want the crossover. But
oh hell, oh.
they're if Hamilton were to win, they're 2 points back. They're basically a game
They'd be
back.
tied with the Lions. Oh, it's back in Toronto. Sorry.
And then Toronto plays Winnipeg next week. So if Winnipeg were to win or lose this week, win next week, it puts both Hamilton and Toronto in must-win category for the remaining 2 games of the regular season. If Hamilton loses, all Toronto needs to do is beat Winnipeg next week, and they would knock out Hamilton. But Hamilton basically needs to win out.
Oh God. Okay, I gotta. Oh, if they lose the one when I'm at their house, it's gonna be beautiful.
I knew that was coming because I knew you'd be there on Friday night.
My little black. I might not make it out the stadium. Which game we talking about first though? Winnipeg and Hamilton.
Winnipeg and Hamilton, yeah.
Yeah, the one.
You already know it's blue skies all over the place. I'm going Winnipeg. I need them. I need to knock them out. Knock out Hamilton.
I think we're all in agreement that it's going to be Winnipeg on Friday.
Yes, sir.
If you're a Red Blacks fan, you are cheering for Winnipeg. You are putting on a Winnipeg jersey. Hell, I might wear my Winnipeg jersey to work on Friday.
Same.
If you're a Rough Rider fan or you don't like Hamilton, you need a Winnipeg win.
I'm gonna wear a Winnipeg one first part.
Shane, technically, it is possible for the Red Blacks to miss the playoffs if they were to lose out and Hamilton won out. Very
yes, which
unlikely,
is why you need Winnipeg to win on Friday to clinch that spot. Not worry about it. Yeah, depends on if you want to host second or third. If you want to host the East Final, but you just you get Winnipeg. Yeah, Winnipeg wins, you're in. You worry about the remaining 3 games when you come back from the bye.
Correct. And
my goodness.
So Shane, you're going with Winnipeg. I am also going to go with Winnipeg. We've seen how dominant the Blue Bombers are since they started the year 2-6. Hamilton is the second hottest team in the CFL right now, but so was Edmonton before that back-to-back. The first game, for the most part, for the first 3 quarters, was really close, and then Winnipeg came out and absolutely demolished them in Winnipeg last Friday. And now, just like they were 4 or 5 weeks ago, the Elks are going to need a miracle to make the playoffs, while the the Tiger Cats are in the same scenario. The Bombers also have that first place aspiration, as I believe a Bombers win and a Lions win and a Riders loss would also clinch first for the Bombers, as they have the season series with the Lions. So the Bombers, with any sort of win, no matter what BC does, and a Riders loss, will clinch first place. They know that going into this game, and I think, especially with coach in attendance, the Bombers pretty much turn the lights out on Scamilton's season.
Now I'm gonna be well. If they let's say hypothetically they did pull off a victory, I'm gonna see them when they play Calgary. I'd rather them win and lose against Winnipeg than them somehow beat Winnipeg. Well, if I just don't trust Calgary. I can't trust Calgary.
You want to know what's wild about Calgary though?
What?
If they beat, because this is game 15 for Calgary this week.
Yep.
If they were to beat BC, they're only 3 points back of BC for third in the West.
And they give BC problems. So are they playing?
They already beat them once.
BC, Calgary isn't out of it yet. If they can win this week, if they win out, they could easily steal that third spot in the West.
Oh,
So
they're not
like,
beating us at home. They're not beating us at Mosaic. That's not happening. I put everything I
no,
love on that.
probably not. I mean, I don't think they're going to win this week against BC, but I'm saying like, if we're looking at playoff situations, Calgary isn't technically eliminated because they have 8 points left on the table, um, versus the 6 that BC does, and
Mm.
they're only 5 points back.
Correct.
So I mean, BC has a little bit of wiggle room, obviously, um, but you don't want to take that chance. You beat Calgary, they're done. But if you lose to Calgary, Calgary has hope, and you know what happens when you give someone a little bit of hope, they can run
So
with it.
it's a
Oh yeah.
clean sweep for the Bombers, as Cole, of course, picked the Bombers as well. The second half of the Friday night doubleheader. Thank gosh this game isn't at 7:30. That sucked last week. Even though I wasn't at the game, that still sucked because especially with it going to overtime, it didn't end till almost 11 o'clock here
Mm.
in Vancouver.
It's like
So
2 o'clock
that
our time.
thank
God damn.
yeah, 2 o'clock Eastern for you, Shane.
I'm so glad I did
Yeah,
not stay up to watch that game. I had work the next morning. I was not staying up for it.
yeah, so it's nice that the Hamilton Winnipeg game is at 4 our time, so the Lions are back to their typical 7 o'clock start time. The Lions are at home once again. This game, even though the Stampeders have a tie, so it wouldn't matter. Most likely, it's not going to matter anyways, but it wouldn't matter. Technically, this game is for the season series. Shane, who do you got and why?
Oh, I got BC. I mean, I think Calgary struggled on the road, to begin with. I don't trust Jake Mayer at quarterback. Um, I think BC after last week, I think there's a lot of doubt that is not in the locker room. Um, I'm not going to speculate that, but I think the media, the fans, the CFL world, there's a lot of doubt there. I think there's a lot of doubt in Nathan Work. I think there's a lot of doubt in Rick Campbell. There's a lot of doubt on that offensive line. A win, especially a dominant win, would kind of quiet a lot of people, um, especially considering like this is a team that started off really, really hot. Do we know if they're starting Rourke or if they're starting Adams this week?
They're starting Rourke.
Mm-hmm. They already said they're gonna push him as a starter for the rest of the season.
I mean, I guess you paid him to come in and start, but I feel like at this point you should probably go to Adams since
Mm-hmm.
you've been struggling. But that's Rick Campbell for you.
Mm.
Same guy who basically, well, I wouldn't say it's him, but there's, Burris' end in Ottawa wasn't necessarily because he wanted to leave the CFL.
Yep.
But um, overall, I just think BC needs this win more than Calgary. I think if Calgary were to lose, no one would bat an eye. They'd be like, oh, yeah, it's Calgary. But if BC were to lose again to Calgary after losing to Hamilton, there would be serious questions around everyone in that organization.
No, absolutely. Coach Jake Myers, your boy, are you gonna pick Calgary or are you going with the Lions?
Hell no, I disowned him. BC all the way.
Thank God, about time.
Yeah, so again, that's our second straight clean sweep. I'm going with the Lions. As I said earlier, if it was anyone else, literally anyone else in the CFL right now, my confidence would not be as high as it is. But because it's the Calgary Stampeders, it's at home where the Stampeders are winless this year still. That's crazy to think about that I believe this is what, Shane, their second last road game because
Yeah, they
they
have
go to
one more against Mosaic. They have one
yeah,
more
so they go to
against
Regina.
Saskatchewan.
So they are 0-7 so far on the road this year. They could be 0-9 at the end of the season, which is absolutely insane. For those two reasons alone, I think the Lions need to come out as the more desperate team, and I think they will. So I think that'll make it a clean sweep for all four of us again. This really sucks for you guys not making up any ground on me. But the last game of the
It
week,
is what it is.
the last game of the week is coaches Saskatchewan Roughriders traveling to the Edmonton Elks and Commonwealth Stadium. And again, even though it won't matter because the Riders have that tie in their back pocket, this as well is for the season series. Coach, I know where you're going to go. So, Shane, I'll start with you. Who you got in this game and why?
I think Saskatchewan takes it, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people may think based off what we saw from Edmonton the last couple of weeks. I think it's a trap game for Saskatchewan. I again, not the biggest fan of Trevor Harris. Sean Bain's out. Armstead's expected to be out. I just there's a lot that I don't like with the Rough Riders offense. I mean, again, Brett was 7 for 7. I think this is what the third time where he's kicked 7 field goals this season. Like, I know Lewis Ward kicks a lot for Ottawa, but I don't think he's kicked more than 4 in a game this season. That's just to be a top team and be a Grey Cup contender. You can't be relying on field goals. But I just don't think the Edmonton defense, which has been better, is good enough to be a game changer for them this year, especially this late in the year. Who knows what they do at quarterback and how they play that out. But I think Saskatchewan's going to win. It's just going to be a closer game than what I think most people think. And Saskatchewan's going to struggle out of the gate.
Yeah, and I will go with the Riders as well. Calgary was supposedly the tonic that they needed to win games after Labor Day. That was a lot closer game than it probably should have been, but the Riders still got the win. They beat up a banged up Ottawa team, but again, they still got the win.
Hey, good teams find ways to win, right?
Yeah, and they're doing enough to win right now. Trevor Harris has looked better. Lothar, he's back to being Mr. Reliable after I don't want to say well, he did. I will say that he cost the Riders one game for sure, maybe two
Again,
more.
I think when you kick 7 field goals, your offense was more of an issue than your kicker.
No,
Shouldn't
I
be
agree,
putting him
but
in that position.
when you miss 4 of them and you end up losing by 3 points.
True, but like they're also kicking like 45 plus yarders consistently. Like
Yeah, no.
that, like
Get me closer. Get me closer. That's all you got to do. That's on the offense.
yeah, I mean,
Yep.
I think at some point when you're kicking 7 field goals, the depth, like where you're kicking from, it's like he was kicking cheap, like chip shots from like 20 yards out. Once you get past 40, I think as much as accuracy and like leg strength play a factor in it, there's so many things that like people who say they can kick a 40-yard field goal and rip on kickers for missing 40 plus yard field goals like and say that they have one job have never kicked a field goal in their life. That is hard work.
It's very hard.
And like being able to like, because you're not just kicking, like you're contorting your leg. You have to put the right amount of power. You have to hit it in the right spot. Like there's a lot that goes behind it. So yeah, if you're kicking 45 plus yard field goals consistently, that's an offensive problem, not a you problem. That's just my take on kicking. Because I think you shouldn't be kicking 7 40 plus yard field goals in a game. Like that's ridiculous.
Fair point, Shane. And I think that defense as well for the Riders, they were very clearly not the problem during that 7-game winless stretch. They're an elite defense, and they've shown that pretty much all year. And I think the bigger problem for the Elks is that they're elking again. Like they won 5 of 6. They were right back in the thick of the playoff race. And I don't think it's so much that they lost the back-to-back to the Bombers, even though they really eliminated themselves from the playoff race in doing so. I think it's how they lost those games, especially the games in Winnipeg. They just got absolutely demolished by the Blue Bombers. Their quarterback situation is completely up in the air. MBT came in. He was supposed to be the placeholder for a year until Trey was ready. They went to Trey. Now they've gone back to MBT. Nobody knows if either one of them is going to stay in Edmonton next year. Nobody knows who the GM is going to be. No one knows who the coach is going to be. And the Elks are just I was really rooting for the Elks there for that 6 week stretch, but it's hard not to just notice that the Elks are going to elk again, and I think the Riders, they're going to take advantage of that. And no matter what happens in that BC game, they're going to take the 1 point lead. No matter what happens, I mean, I guess technically, if Calgary does win this Friday, the Riders could almost clinch a home playoff game with a win, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to come down to that game next weekend in Regina to see who hosts the Western semifinal. So, last but not least, Coach, I think I know you're going to go with your Riders, but maybe tell us why.
I'm gonna go with the Riders, battle tested, ready. They're hungry for that playoff spot. Whereas the last season, we couldn't buy a victory after Labor Day. This team has found the key to get the victory. I'm not saying Trevor Harris is going to be a world beater for us. I'm not saying Trevor has to go out there and slay 350, 400, but control the game, attack that. And you got to, and we have to, our offensive line has got to assert its dominance against Oakman and them boys, man. That line is scary. That defensive line, just inside the box, assert your dominance, use your willpower, and let it be known, hey, we're going to run this pill and we're going to run through you. That's it. Assert your dominance early, and we're gonna get up out of there with a W. I hate to do it against I hate to do it against my black people, but shoot, it is what it is.
And
I
I mean,
agree. Shall Shane go ahead?
they're being led by MOP. Like should be the front runner for MOP and Defensive Player of the Year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Roland Milligan has like him and Beverett. I think if you get like either or, I don't think anyone would be upset if you give it to either or based on their seasons.
Absolutely.
But like Milligan has been outstanding. The way he like watching him last week against Ottawa and the way he baited Mazzoli into his interception, textbook. That was beautiful. If you're a DB and you're trying to learn how to like kind of bait and switch a quarterback, perfect. And he did it like 3 or 4 times in the game. Like he could have ended the game with like 3 or 4 picks. So I mean, I don't know. I think this is a game where Milligan can really, he has another, a pick or two against Edmonton, a couple of special teams plays. He should cement himself as like the runaway favorite for MOP this week against Edmonton.
He's gonna have to get double digit interceptions to solidify it.
Which is crazy in the CFL.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean, he shouldn't need double digits to solidify it. He should be able to get 8 or 9,
but you know how it is. They want they got to have a pretty number, round it out.
Well, Zach had one good game, and he's like 3rd in the betting odds right now. Yeah, like that's ridiculous.
It's because the CFL doesn't have an Offensive Player of the Year award. So
I don't
MOP,
care.
But like that's the problem is that the MOP has turned into a default offensive player award when in reality they should come out with their own offensive player award, like name it like the Ricky Ray or the Doug Flutie or whatever you want to call it. But it should be an most outstanding offensive player. You can call it the Moo Award, get Milk to sponsor it. And then you have your MOP. It's like the player that was the most outstanding in all 3 phases of or in any of the 3 phases of the game, and that's it. Like it's not a hard fix. It's just it's things that they don't think of because the last defensive player to win it was in 2014.
Yep. So I think that'll pretty much do it for our picks. I believe we clean swept the entire week, so I believe all 4 of us are going with the Blue Bombers in the early game on Friday. All 4 of us are going with the Lions in the late game, and all 4 of us are going with the Riders on Saturday. So I appreciate the support, boys, in allowing me to stay in first for one more week, no matter what happens. But that'll pretty much do it for your guys' time with us. So Shane, I'll go to you first. What's going on at 13th Man right now? CHL is in complete full swing. U Sports is about midway through the year. BCFC is amazingly in the last week of the regular season. The Prairie Conference is not too far behind. The OFC is a little later just because they get to host the Canadian Bowl this year, so they don't have to finish on as much of a time crunch. And NHL starts officially on Friday in Czechia, and then the North American start is next Wednesday, the 9th. So other than that, what's going on at 13th Man, Shane?
Just trying to finalize a couple of things. Hopefully have that out early next week. Just doing some checks and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, full swing in sports. I mean, MLB playoffs have started. NFL is kind of in the full swing. NHL, NBA, kind of a lot going on. But yeah, just trying to finalize some things in the back end and hopefully a winter full of content coming up. And then obviously prepping for Grey Cup. That's going to be a fun time. Coming in Friday morning.
We're less than 50 days away from all four of us being together at the same place at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, we fly in Friday afternoon, technically, because of the time change. We're leaving, we're flying out of Ottawa at 6 a.m.
Jesus.
So you'll get into BC at about 8:30 a.m.
Yeah, I think it's wild. It was either that or come into BC at 3 or 4 p.m. and I'm like, I don't want to get into BC that late. With everything going on that weekend. So we're staying right down the road from BC Place. So definitely gonna have some fun over the weekend. So
it's gonna be good. But once again, thanks for joining us, Shane. We will see you next Wednesday when there's only 3 weeks left in the CFL regular season.
And hopefully the Red Blacks have clinched the playoff spot.
Let's hope so. Thanks, Shane.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Ooh. All right, Coach. So you got your big trip to Scamilton. I believe you're also coming out to Regina next weekend. Do I have that correct?
I'm going to be coming out for the season finale against Calgary. I'm going to try and make it to the BC one, but I'm definitely doing the last two. The BC one is kind of, I'm hoping and praying I can get to that one.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping and praying to get to that one as well. Out there in Regina with some of our Regina buddies.
Yes,
you got your reaction videos with your with kind of your co-host at this point, your son. How are those going? Is he still having fun doing them?
He's having fun. He's wanting to do breakdowns. He wants to, so we're gonna do a breakdown this week of Shamar Bridges, his game. He wants to be a receiver. So I said, dude, if you want to do it, let's do it. So we're gonna do Shamar Bridges. We're gonna do Tim White. We're gonna have some fun with that. We're gonna do for my members in the membership click. We're gonna watch some highlights from the MLB postseason because I love baseball. That's just for members only. Get ready for Grey Cup. Mom Dukes is coming to Grey Cup. My kids is coming.
Awesome.
So you get to meet moms and all that, and it's gonna be fun, man. I'm so excited and I'm excited for my trip to Scamilton and Toronto. That just doing that alone, the back-to-back days, it's like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. I gotta be on my best behavior in Scamilton because I ain't got time to be fighting. I ain't got time to be fighting nobody. But it's all love. I've had some hit friends from Hamilton, they're going to be watching out for me. So it's going to be fun.
That's awesome. Anything else you got going on, Coach, or is that pretty much all right now?
Hey, we staying busy, baby. I'm going to keep doing my thing, get ready for the winter. We're going to go crazy like we did at the end of the season. And we should keep our knee in these people's throats.
Perfect. Thanks, Coach. We'll see you again next week.
All right, brother. Love you.
Love you too. All right. So that was Coach Phil, and we will see. Cole, you there, buddy? I don't think Cole is quite ready yet. So I will start off our Week 12 BCFC picks as I got to pull up the schedule once again. And It is the last week of the regular season, as Cole is, of course, right now at Raiders practice, and they start off the week with a game against the Valley Huskers. The VI Raiders coming off a big, monstrous upset over the West Shore Rebels a week ago. Cole and I have talked about it a lot this year. It's really unfortunate that Sadler got hurt when he did, because I think if he didn't, this almost could have been a win and you're in game. Unfortunately, that was not the case. Obviously, the Langley Rams a couple weeks ago did not help that out either, as the Langley Rams lost to the Valley Huskers. So we know the 4 playoff teams. We do not know the order they will finish in just yet. But I will start the BCFC weekly picks by saying that I think it'll be the VI Raiders upsetting once again the Valley Huskers this week. Like I said, I'm really impressed with the Raiders and what they've done almost all season. I think the Raiders are really back for real. Maybe this is my personal bias speaking just a little bit, but I think the Raiders are back. I think the Raiders will win this game. The second game of the week is the West Shore Rebels traveling to McLeod Athletic Park, and this could be a battle for second place, depending on what happens in that Valley VI game, as the Rams beat West Shore almost a month ago when they played in Victoria. 23-10, I believe, was the final score in that one. But then the next week they came home. They went to Chilliwack and they got demolished by the by the Valley Huskers. And then the West Shore Rebels, they've been on a bit of a losing streak recently, as they also lost, as we mentioned a moment ago, to the VI Raiders. I think the Rams really want second place in the BCFC, and I think that's really important to them. The destiny is in their own hands. If the Rams win, no matter what happens in that Valley game, even if Valley wins, they will finish second. They will host either the West Shore Rebels or the Valley Huskers in the BCFC semi-final. However, if the Rebels win and then Valley loses, it will become a three-way, or Valley wins, I should say. If West Shore and Valley both win, it will become a three-way tie for second, and you got to go to the tiebreakers, and good luck with that one. And then the last game of the BCFC regular season is a rematch, this time in Kamloops. It is the Kamloops Broncos facing off against the Prince George Kodiaks. It was the Broncos coming out with a 23-21 victory in in Prince George a week ago. Our man Colton Michael from the Kamloops Broncos, he was able to be a big part of that victory. And I think winning this game in, as I got to double check that, I believe I have that right. No, I actually had that wrong. It was a Prince George 23-21 victory, so I apologize. Prince George was able to win their final home game of this season, but I think the difference, especially with these two games being close, or with these two teams being so close last week, I think that home field advantage will play a difference. Both of these teams really playing for pride at this point this season. None of them are going to the playoffs, and I think the Kamloops Broncos will win this week, as that'll almost do it for us for the BCFC picks. As always, if you are in Kamloops, if you're in Langley, if you are on Nanaimo on the island for the VI Raiders game, get out to those. Hey, if you're anywhere in BC high school football, Cole's not here to tell me I can't, so I'm going to give a huge shout out to all the BC high school players. my New Westminster Hiax. I am not going to be at the game this week. Julio, though, if you're watching, Hiax all the way. The Hiax this week are facing off at home against Julio Caravata, who will, of course, be calling the Lions game. So neither one of us will be at the Hiax game, but it's the top 10 matchup between the Hiax and the Centennial Centaurs this week. But that'll pretty much do it for us for this week's show. As always, thank you for tuning into us. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that like button, as your support is so greatly appreciated for us. For myself and Cole, thank you so much. Cole and I will still have a preview show. We are hashing out the details for that. I don't know if we'll be able to get a post-game show this week, as I believe we are both planning on being at BC Place on Friday night. And as always, tune in to Cole and Matt Young as well. The Canada West preview show and Canada West picks will be coming out here soon. So once again, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Don't forget to tune into the preview show, the possible post game show, and then we will be back next week for our Week 19 CFL picks, the playoffs in the BCFC, and as always, the 3-minute drill and news and notes. Good night, everyone.